Good afternoon, everyone. Time for us lazy algo traders to start working. Let me just tweet out if this is actually working, that it's working, and we'll get started. And as per always, there is a little chat bar. Live. There's a little chat bar kind of to the side or to below what you're looking at. So if anything's wrong with sound, if anything's cutting out, if you've got any questions at all, plug them in there. Just like the other times this week, I'm going to do this every day this week. We're going to wrap up what the robot did yesterday from the stocks that we fed into it. Then we're going to go after that and look at what kind of the market's doing right now. And then from there, we're going to build tomorrow's list. All right, so ignore this, something I'm working on possibly for Holly in the future. Basically playing with some of the new pre-market filters they added in, seeing if there's some alpha there I can kind of extract out. So, as per every day, let us start history today. And again, if people are real new at Trade Ideas, you don't know how to do this, any alert window, you can right click and go to history, and today or yesterday or kind of whatever time frame you want, and take a look at every alert that went through there throughout the day. So to quickly look at what we were looking at on yesterday, here's the lists that we put together. Of these kind of pretty big lists, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trades in total. So again, that's why I'm looking at like 20 things at a time, because I know the amount of trades I'm going to get is much smaller. So first one here in the morning was PSX. Chopped around most of the morning. When it sold down here at lows, I actually had my target for most just right above lows here, and then it just kind of bounced from there and chopped around. So I think I got out of the rest flat, I think, actually, but 80% of the position was out down here. TER, you can see, came in on this candle, didn't really do much all day. It was just kind of a slow mover. I think I made like 5 cents or something on it. INTU, we had this great push up to the high of the day, came back down, took another push up to try to get at this high. So I just moved my stop up, break even, and when it came down somewhere in here, I got stopped, break even on that. OHI, triggered here, pulled back. Remember we talked about this one, if you were here yesterday, about how I didn't think it was going to move too much. So from the trigger, it dropped like 10 cents, and then it went up 10 or 20 cents, and then just kind of, another small 10-cent gain-ish on that. INTU doesn't matter, we take the first alert. That's what the bot set up to do of each one. And Johnson & Johnson was fantastic with a bounce move all the way up to cover most up in kind of this area here, which was double our risk, and then it just kind of chopped around for the rest of the day. Schlumberger, it popped up here. I actually had my profit target out in the 50s, so it came just shy of that, pulled back down. Base sideways most of the day, never really tested these lows, and at the end of the day we were thankful to get a little run on that. So no full out stops today, a couple winners that were pretty good, and a handful of flats, so can't complain with that at all. That's exactly what I'd be after, right? So all right, from here let's just take a look at what the SPY did today, and at the same time I'm going to crack open my beer here. gotta open up my pen. Here, hold on, my Epic pen. Come on, where is it? There it is. So we've been kind of noting on the SPY for a while now that really we've got this big support, or this big resistance, this big support, and then we've kind of been in a base here, right? And if we look at the 5-minute chart zoomed way out, you know, big support at 238 and big resistance around 239, and then just a lot of bull crap in the middle. So unfortunately the plan remains the same, that I don't think anything super interesting is going to happen until we resolve that range one way or the other. So I'm going to continue to focus on stocks oversold nearing support or overbought nearing resistance. So that's it. A lot of people actually ask me why I don't spend a lot of time on the market, and it's because my trading decisions of what I'm going to pick is only based off of what the market looks like it's doing, not on the actual trading that's going on. So basically I'm not looking to say, okay, this is a directional bet. I'm more looking to say, okay, this is what I think the market's going to perform like, and then go from there. So so let's start as always with the shorts. One of the reasons, again, you'll notice that this is very samey every day, which is why I don't know how long I'll stream it until it gets incredibly boring. But if you read anything about top performers, they're very routine, they're very structured. So I try to do the exact same thing, where I try to be very routine, very structured, and make sure I'm looking at kind of the same things every day, all day. So quick write-up on what we're doing here. If you're new, welcome. Basically, I am an algo trader. I build a lot of fully back-tested algos using trade ideas and have my robot trade those. On top of that, I've adopted about 6 months ago a new strategy where I'm actually feeding the robot with stocks that I think either have a bullish or a bearish move the next day, and telling the robot, okay, of this list I create, filter this down and only trigger when certain intraday criteria is met. So the beauty of that is that the long-term chart is taken care of by me, and the short-term chart is taken care of by the robot, and it does all of its trading intraday. Again, if you're not an algo trader or not interested in it, you can do the same thing and kind of build a top list. So what this is a top list that has all of the entry criteria for intraday that I want to see, and it feeds only from this list. So of everything I'm watching tomorrow, all I would have to have up if I was a discretionary trader is these two symbols, or these two lists, and I know that, okay, when this one shorts, that's a long-term chart kind of doing everything that I wanted it to do. So when I say I'm going to be adding it to a list, I'll just be typing it in here that you can get to from Trade Ideas website. And then from there, I will just be kind of inputting the symbols directly. And when we're done, you'll actually see these top lists updated down the corner, because they're also this stock list. So you can see that I cleared out all the shorts, and then I'll start to kind of go back into them from there. So we were looking at AIG yesterday. I'm going to leave this one in. This was a simple breakdown, pull back up to prior support, and then topping tails up around the 62 area. Looks like really nothing has changed today. Oh, actually, looking now, and this is why I have pre and post market up, you can see that we're gapping up a little bit into this area. So that's no longer interesting. Which is why it's important, you know, I'll start looking here, then I'll look over here, right? Because this is the pattern I'm most interested with. Then I'll look over here to see if I see, you know, more intraday patterns that are interesting, which is where I caught this. And then from there, I go over into here, where I look at, okay, what's a logical stop? What's its average true range? Can I get about half of that and be satisfied? So again, I start here, and then I'm over here, and then I'm over here. So every now and then I'll start talking about how good something looks, and then I'll cut myself off like that because I started here and it looked good, and then by the time my eyes got up here, I was done. All right, so from here, we're gonna take a look at. Closing some stuff down in the background, being a little bit angry on my end. All right, so AIG we're not interested in. AME, another day higher, right? So if we liked it here and it just moved straight up and hit its head, then we like it here, you know. And then I look at, okay, what will the robot look as support? Probably that. So if it breaks that in the morning, you know, I'm looking to risk about a quarter to make about a half. So I look at those and I say, okay, that's about reasonable, and I like the pattern, so on I go. Delete this, do this. I love when we find symbols from yesterday that kind of still make sense for today. Just makes my life a lot easier. Looks like Facebook earnings, or maybe a Twitter earnings or something in a sympathy play. So that one's definitely got to go. I am pretty much a technical trader and a statistical trader. I'm not a fundamental trader, so I actually avoid as much as I can the news. W was interesting. We were noting the resistance up here. It looks like we kind of tried at that and put in a doji, which is another weak symbol. So it looks like we might still be on track for a move lower. So I'm going to add that. So of our whole list yesterday, the only things that kind of remain interesting are W and AME. So now, again, anyone stop me at any time with any questions. If you're new to trade ideas, I'm going to kind of blaze through this pretty quick. But from here, I have a myriad of scans in which I created, some of which I can share, some of which I can't because they've got custom formulas. And I basically tailor these to what I'm looking for in the market. So we did the market wrap up earlier, and now we're taking a look at this. And when we did the market wrap up, I said, okay, right, as long as the SPY is choppy, not really interested in kind of momentum type plays. I'm looking for support and resistance type plays. So everything you'll see here is going to be something to that effect. So since we're looking at short, I'm going to start up here with topping tails. Basically just looking at you know, your textbook. Stock had a pretty decent move early and then retraced back at some point in the day. Ideally, I want these to happen, you know, right at a resistance area, because again, we're day traders, so we're looking for kind of just whatever the next one day is going to be. Something like Lowe's, actually. I'm going to add Lowe's to the list here, right, where we had a bit of a move up right at resistance, possible double top forming with pretty decent topping action early. So if the intraday trend continues and people see that it's bouncing off that resistance area, we might get some people to cover, sell their position, go short. And again, we're just trying to ride that wave. I know I just removed C-Trip, but I'm actually going to add that back in. It's just a very interesting intraday chart here. If we take a look, it looks like a giant wick, but really this all happened in the first minute or so in the day. So really what the candle should actually look like is just kind of a tight base, a tight base in and near the low of this last one. So still looks like it could continue, and a retest of the breakout point's not irrational. Coach is interesting, this little piercing pattern here. I'm going to add this one in there. I like the topping tail. I like that it kind of ran out the gate early, and if you can see here, we have increasing a lot of volume, I guess, on the top here, which happened right near where it happened yesterday. So looking on the daily chart, it looks like this, but sometimes you look on the intraday chart and you see a pretty clear resistance area, right? So I'll tell the bot that, you know, if we're kind of anywhere in this range and we start breaking resistance, look for continuation lower, you know, with the stop somewhere near that resistance area. So and God, I don't know if you can hear my voice, but I slowly feel like I'm coming down with something. So it was fantastic just to be able to take a little bit of an afternoon nap today and know that everything's kind of being handled automatically, that I don't have to be there and perform. But again, this strategy could still be done discretionary if you're not interested in robotic trading at all, which I know a lot of people aren't. I still think that if you're wicked intraday and you use statistics to kind of push on your side, like a Holly or a strategy that you've created and back tested, I still think that's probably the best of both worlds. For me, I'm much better at this kind of theoretical type crap the night before than I am heat of the battle type stuff. So I think I'm going to leave this lumber liquidators in, or put this lumber liquidators in. Big strong move that kind of scared a lot of people yesterday, and then a decent little topping tail today. Came up to 22, got rejected pretty harshly, and wasn't able to kind of clear any sort of resistance after that. So if we can short, you know, in this area with a stop kind of in that area, I think we have some chance to continue tomorrow. We're going to try to keep not many of these in, just because really not looking at a lot of Momo stuff right now. Again, I think with this choppy market, it's going to continue to chop around until something exciting happens. And I think that's going to kind of happen overnight. It's going to be a major event, might not be good, and then we're going to get a wicked gap, and that's kind of when things are going to get interesting. I love this kind of play. I love a gap down, a continuation higher right up to fill the gap, and then getting rejected right at the gap. You know, if you were in here and you were holding hope, this topping tail might have dashed that hope for you, and you might be coming in tomorrow looking to hit the sell button. And again, we're just trying to get on the side of those people. Alright, so we're going to move on from this guy. We're going to go into figure. And again, for anyone who doesn't know, you can take any top list, configure it, and you can hit flip, and it will flip kind of the relevant stuff. So now this is a kind of overbought scan, looking for things overextended above the Bollinger Band to try to look for these fade type moves. I'm working on developing some strategies for maybe some low float players as well. I'm going to start them off real tiny because, as I mentioned yesterday, I've tried a few times and they're very hard to basically nail with robotic trading. So I'm still working on it though. There is some untapped potential there, but God, you got to be fast. Oh, RH is going to go in here. Finally filled the gap. I knew when I saw this symbol, I knew that I wanted it for some reason, but right, it had this gap down area. You can see it's filling that now. So we're gonna add that guy in there. Could get some selling action in tomorrow. So 2 more shorts onto the long. Trying to keep these, at least this rambling part of it, for ideally under a half hour, but it's looking like probably 45 minutes. And then leave more time for Q&A and sitting here and shooting the shit, because that's probably more fun and more interesting for you guys. You get a bit of a look inside my weird brain right now, but you don't really get to ask too much stuff till the end. So, excuse me, the beer. Like a true Canadian, think I'm coming down with the flu. Grab myself a beer. Sort me right out. Really don't want to bet against this UAL, but maybe one more day up, it'll be interesting. I find this, I actually made a tweet about it, or a LinkedIn, or some social media about don't freak out, because I remember that this was where they kind of whooped that guy's ass for no reason, and everyone was saying, oh, United's doomed, it's an obvious short, you know, the stock dropped, you know, 10% or 20% or whatever they were quoting at the time, and just climbed up at the end of the day. And the media doesn't change its tune, right? They keep talking about how this thing is crapping out and down on the day, but obviously it did fine. So I've been kind of watching this in through here for a long time, betting, not putting any money behind it, but the next move is going to be higher. Just, if you ever think that it's as simple as a company has bad news and you short the stocks, oh, do I have some fun times for you. I made that mistake a few times in my career. Stocks generally don't move. It's less important to see, in my opinion, the what the news was, and more important to see what was the reaction to the news, right? So when I was looking there at UAL, and I was watching it the day that, you know, the video went viral and all this stuff, nothing's really happening. I'm gonna add PayPal here. It's just looking a little bit overextended. Yeah, I don't think there's, it doesn't go fast that far. It's fairly new stock. I just like this kind of lackluster intraday action at this obvious 49-ish resistance area. As long as it stays in and around that area, it's got some chance to go down tomorrow. God only knows what kind of gang signs or whatever I'm writing on here sometime. So one more, and then that's our cap, and then we've got to go on to the long side. Interesting. I'm just looking at grub in this top end of the area here. It seems to be holding pretty strong. I think grub's going to be our last choice here. I'm thinking maybe if we get a pop tomorrow and then some sort of sell back through, and then a sell back through where that double top is, we'll go from there. So that is the shorts. I'm going to update that, and then we'll do the longs. And I'll move this a little bit out of the way, and what you'll see is that in a minute, Trade Ideas is just going to update this list with what I saved on there, and then that's also when they'll get updated on my my alert windows that are over on this screen. Loving this kind of trading, just absolutely loving it. All of the fun of stock picking and all that stuff, and none of the intraday pressure or stress. INTU is going to go back in. Right, we've just been watching it find support a lot at 125. Right, so as long as it keeps working, we're going to keep doing it. If we get another pullback to 125 and then a push up, maybe they'll just give up at that point. Or even a higher low might be interesting. Yep, all of the J&J we're going to put back in. Again, a really clean trader, finding a lot of support in this area. Still has a bit of room to go to close the gap. So, you know, my bet is looking long on this one. But again, as I'll state with every time with these, some of these may trigger, none of these may trigger, all of them may trigger. Won't know until tomorrow, and that's the benefit of having the robot looking at them. K, that orange line there on the daily chart, we drew that yesterday. We had to go way back to get it, but we just saw that this was a bit looking overdone to the downside. And again, a lot of volume, really clean trader. Not going to even look at that again. It's no fun. Unfortunately, QCOM didn't give us anything today, but we were right about that one. But no fill. TD, I'm going to put in. Getting closer and closer. Actually bounced off that little resistance area today. So let's add that in there. And just ignore TER. So time to scan. And again, a lot of these you'll notice they're the exact opposite. This scan's just going to show me hammer candles or bottoming tails or whatever you like to call them. Ideally, I'm going to see them in a support area or looking like they could cause some trend continuation. I think I'm going to put Zen in. We had a good trade, I believe, in this, at least not a bad one the other week, but it's been breaking out of this resistance and pulling back. And just look, let me zoom in closer here. Just look at all the bottoming tails on this one. It's pretty much every day, which is telling me that at some point every day something or someone comes in and just starts buying a crap ton of shares. So interesting. You know, if we get another pullback that gets bought and the robot participates in that, a lot of room for our profits kind of in and up this area near 30. That pre-6 feeling, right? Freezing cold 1 minute, boiling hot the next. Thank God I got maybe another hour max in my workday, then I'm done. So we're gonna add in RCL here. Oh, that would go exactly opposite to our CCL. Let's ignore that. Scratch that. Just keeping in mind with the different things I got on the go, the different trades that I have. Right, I've got CCL in there, eyeing short, so it doesn't make any sense to put RCL in there, eyeing long. It will just net out to whichever one's kind of got a higher beta. Yeah, Boeing's way too volatile, I think. For me, anyway. We're gonna add Zillow on here. We've been watching this one for a while. We got a good trade out of it on this day here. Then not so good. Actually, we put it in, but it didn't trigger any of these other days so far anyway. So it's actually putting a pretty decent support. You can see here on the intraday and the daily around 39. So I no longer think this is overdone for a snapback. I mentioned yesterday that If you're not following Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends, follow him, buy his book. His book's fantastic. And he always talks about, price can correct two ways, right? It can correct backwards. A parabolic stock doesn't stay parabolic forever, right? So it's got two options. One pulls back. The other is it corrects through time. I think Zillow has kind of got to the point where I was looking at it up in this area for a short, but now it's just kind of chopped sideways a few days. So I think it's correcting through time now. And as long as this intraday support here of 39 holds, I'm going to feed that into the bot for pullbacks in that area that kind of don't violate that area. See if we get a push. We got room for 4 more in the short department. And what it might do as I prove to myself more and more success with this, there's always 2 ways to scale up in this, and one is in size. The other is in amount of trades, right? And because I'm auto trading and because I trade with a prop firm, so we get a ridiculously low per share rate, not a per trade rate. I might start looking a little bit more into the just more, right? Trying to extend the list from 20 total to maybe 30 total or something like that. XLNX, good volume, great range, great smart stop, gapped up, pulled back to kind of the breakout area, put in a bottoming tail today. Gonna look to see if this continues tomorrow. So we're gonna add this one in here. Yeah, but you should always, if something's going well, right, you always need to figure out in your head what's the most intelligent way to size up, right? Go hard when things are working and back off when things stop. Eventually this buy support, sell resistance stuff isn't going to work as much if we get in, a high VIX environment with a lot of movement around. I'm going to need to adapt, and it might take me a week or two to kind of get a handle on that, A, the market's changed, and B, that I got to look at something different. So while things are working, I'm trying to figure out a way to up it, and I'm just looking between either A, size up, or B, more trades, and I may be leaning towards more trade because they're auto traded, so it's just going to continue to smooth the results the more trades you take. And again, that'll be different depending on your broker, depending on whether you're sitting down doing it. A lot of traders get burnt out in the day if they try to just sit there and trade all day to kind of spread the returns around. BBY is interesting here. We had this gap up, pull back to kind of the gap up area. We put in 2 bottoming tails there, and we've got a clear kind of support area intraday. Good smart stop, good average true range, great volume. Less than normal volume today, still gave us 2.5 million. So again, when you're discretionary trading these things, it's a lot easier to work with wide spreads and volatile stocks that are low volume. But when you're auto trading them, it's really important that you get very close to what your kind of back tested, worked on result is. So to do that, you need to make sure that you have at least enough liquidity to play. Alright, so we got 2 more, so I'm going to switch lists. As we get lower down the list, you can see that the hammer pattern kind of degrades. It's because I'm sorting by how wide and significant the wick is, one way or the other. So start going through here and we'll find some over. All right, LYB is going to go in down to kind of an area of congestion here, a little double bottom looking thing today. Oversold, right? It's because it's on the scan. I know that it's outside the Bollinger Bands. So we're going to add in LYB. So yeah, half of me for tomorrow just says, well, just go deep and build. Put 20 in per side and see what happens. But probably makes more sense to work that out a little slow. ATV really move that much, or is that average true range number inflated? No, I guess. Right? If from here to here is 74 to 04, so that's 30 cents. Let's add in ATV. Oops, what the hell did I just do? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so a quick wrap up of the lists. We have them built. We'll go through the short side as the long side is updating. AME, simply overextended and volume starting to decline as it moves higher. This is something I watch, and quite often you'll actually get reversals out of that, at least for intraday, right? Which again is all we're looking at. Coach, kind of playing this off of the intraday support or resistance here, right? We got rejected pretty harshly from there both times. I'm looking to see if that kind of shakes out enough of the longs that we get a pullback and you know, maybe test this breakout area or something like that. C-Trip had a big topping tail yesterday, and then really if you cut out this very early candle, just kind of base sideways today, so a little inside day. Could move lower from there. EMR, love this kind of move, a gap down, retrace to fill the gap, and then a pullback off that. Again, if anybody here is not new, then I've explained kind of my thought process with trading a few times, is always look at the other guy's point of view. And the other guy's point of view is that if I was long in this area and I had this gap down, but a really strong day that followed it, I might hold on and say, okay, well, maybe we come up, get me break even. Who knows where we go from there. So a topping tail the next day, right at that gap, would have me worried. So again, as day traders, we're just trying to tilt that edge a little bit in our side. Grub, we're just kind of playing off this intraday resistance. Right, just trying to up my win rate from 50-50 to 51, right? And, you know, making sure that I manage my risk correctly, that's all you need. Kind of a wicked down move on Lumber Liquidators after a gap. Pushed up, got rejected, and put in this topping tail kind of inside day. I think if we start to sell down, we could really get going if panic sets in, because if you remember, Lumber Liquidators has a history of very bad things happening to them. Lows, we're just playing off this daily support and the kind of topping tail that we had there. PYPL, again, just intraday resistance right up here. Looking to see if we can get a short somewhere near there, stop up there. And, you know, we only need to retrace right back to the high of that range, and that's a pretty fantastic trade. So again, just doing some visualizing of what I see of these things. It took a while to scroll out, but this was actually a gap fill for RH. So we're just going to look to see if some profit taking kind of comes in tomorrow off of that gap fill. And W, the same thing. This area up here yesterday was a prominent area of resistance, and we just kind of gapped down and then did a doji the next day. So, right, possible continuation on that too. And into the longs before we do the Q&A. ATV, just really overdone. Just looking for, you know, a small move from 47 to 37, a small bounce is enough for us. So we're seeing some kind of intraday support happen here. So we're going to feed that into the bot for that scenario. Best Buy, kind of like we were looking at on the short side with a gap up, a sell down to retrace the gap, and then a bottoming tail, some strong late day action coming in. Could make anyone kind of short in this area. Very, very nervous. INTU, just a lot of support kind of in this 125 area. Just going to keep playing off that support until it doesn't work. J&J, same, pretty much exact same kind of thing, right? A lot of intraday support here, and it's this interesting looking bull flag here on the daily. So at some point, if the sellers give up at this area, they might just give up all the way to a push higher. Kellogg's, we drew this line a long time ago, denoted as support. You can see we sold a little bit earlier, but then we put in some nice support today. So, you know, looking at the daily, looking at the intraday, trying to look for things that line up on both sides. Intraday support here, and daily support kind of in this breakout type area, right? Probably more like a box like that as a support area. Always too, keep in mind, I'm drawing lines like this, but no technician looks at the chart and says, okay, this area is support, so if we kind of get up here, I'm not interested. You know, they're areas, they're bands, right? Think of them as kind of ranges. You'll be a lot less frustrated when things go down and then, you know, pop back up, but they hit you first type of deal. TD, some nice support here, right? We had a push down early that got quickly rejected. We came back down to that area today and we held. And then this daily support from this breakout area, pulled all the way back down to it, put in a nice little bottoming tail. XLNX looked the same as Best Buy, right? We had a gap up and then a sell to fill the gap. We have support here, and then we're getting into this kind of gap fill zone down here with a nice bottoming tail, so some later day strength. Zillow, the same as INTU, right? Big strong move up, a lot of intraday support. So we're just playing off that area. Again, Momo trading might be more fun. I just don't think it's the right market for it at all. And Zen, we had a push up and then a pull back, and just there's been so many bottoming tails on the stock recently. Makes me think something's up. I don't know. It's just one of those gut feeling things. Don't really know how to explain too much. So that's it. That's our list. We're good to go. So I don't know who's watching. I'm just watching the chat here, if anyone. Or even if I've just been talking with my mic muted the whole time. So if anyone has any questions, just post it in the chat below there. You know, anything you want to see from the channel, anything like that. We did get under the 45-minute mark, which is good. Which means if I streamline things a little earlier, we can get to the half hour. But that's a good day's work, right? That's all fed into the bot. It can be completely auto traded tomorrow. And more as I trust the bot, then more and more I'm letting it go, letting it do its thing. All right, so I'm gonna wait another minute or two because I know the stream's delayed. Any questions, ask them. If not, I am out. Start making me something to eat, try to get over this flu. Alright guys, so I guess there are no questions. Again, links below for trade ideas. Also has my email if you just want to email me directly and ask something, or if you want, you know, I do some trading mentoring, that type of thing. And you just got to scroll down under the video for those. If you want to try out trade ideas, use that link. They kick a buck or two back my way. Even without it, I'd be talking about this program though, because you can go back in my channel 5 years and you'll see it, and I've been using it even longer than that. So I've been using it since 2006. So all right guys, I will see you tomorrow, and we'll do one. Today's Thursday, so we'll do one, or today's Wednesday? Yeah, so we'll do the Thursday, Friday, and we'll call it a day. So far this week's been fantastic. Today has been the best by far. But things still seem to work, and they still seem to be real choppy. So be careful out there. I know a lot of Momo traders must be hating this market. Shrink your profit targets, shrink your stops, trade more selectively. know that things will pick up, and at some point they have to, right? At some point things have to start really getting cranking. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow.